Welcome everybody. My name is Paul Ovens. Welcome to episode 5 of Becoming Influential, the chat show for modern marketers. I'll be hosting this episode alongside Courtney Dow, amazing legend diamond at the top there, waving and smiling, her cute face. Can't see below her kind of line here, but there's a new party coming into the family soon for Courtney. So pregnant mummy that she is. So might be, if she has to jump off and run to the bathroom, you know why. Tonight, our guests are going to be Adish Peel and Leonie Featherstone, some of our most experienced wellness advocates in this part of in fact, let's call it doTERRA full stop, because they've been around a long time here. Adish and Santoshi together are presidential diamonds and founders in the Australian market, and Leonie Featherstone is a blue diamond leader. So we've featured a lot of leaders so far at different ranks, from I think silver upwards, and this time we've gone for experience. And we've gone for experience for a particular reason, and our subject matter tonight is the failures that made me. I think this is a really interesting subject matter, because depending on whether it's in front of you or whether it's behind you, often clouds or sort of shades your judgment of whether or not something was a success or a failure. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from Adish and from Leonie as to their view on the whole thing. So let's dive in. Courtney, you're up.
Got to unmute myself, sorry. All right, so I'm going to start asking you a question, Leonie. Can you tell us about a moment in your business that at the time felt like a real failure, but now looking back was actually a real turning point or growth opportunity?
This is a really tricky one. And I know when Paul first approached me, I said yes, because I'd always say yes to Paul. And I say yes as well to push myself out of my comfort zone, even with topics that I think, wow, is this really me? And the reason I'm saying this is because I couldn't think of a failure, which doesn't mean to say that I have not had people zero attendance at a class, that I haven't done a market that's been rained out, that I haven't had people change their mind about, working with me, that I haven't had, appointments that didn't turn up because, obviously something else happened, the jelly wrestling was in town or whatever. But I have had those things happening, but I actually, in doTERRA days, I've never seen it as a failure. I just actually saw it as something that was a challenge. And for me, like, a challenge is like, get my teeth into it. I want to overcome it. And so I guess that took a lot of years to get to that point. But what the benefit of that is that seeing it as a challenge, it was like, okay, well, why didn't this work? What could I adjust? What could I tweak? And how can I go forward with that? And that was a lot easier on my emotions. It kind of wasn't knocking me around, because I actually just saw it as one of the many stepping stones in my future path, if that makes sense. And if I can just add to that, possibly where that came from is because I did grow up in the outback. I grew up in a remote area. We didn't have iPads and what are those things, iPhones. We had a lot of I can and I will. So I was really blessed to be given a very strong backbone. And I think I'm a little bit stubborn, which has been quite handy as well when things don't go the way I planned them. If I track back before doTERRA, absolutely, there would have been a time in my life, I'm a statistic, I'm divorced, but I still don't see that as a failure, because I actually have 2 beautiful children. And, there was probably some life lessons there for me to perhaps in how I behave, or to value myself, or, just to think about how I really want to live my life. So for me, I don't see things as failures, and that's no disrespect to anyone who does. I just see them as my lessons to become even better at that which I want to become.
That's because you're terminally positive, Leonie, and we kind of knew that you were kind of have this bent towards it, right? Because of who you are, and everybody in this whole market, and everyone is nodding already and smiling, loves you for it. And I want to just ask you and dive a little deeper then, maybe, because you mentioned something like your marriage, right? This is such a personal business, and everything that happens to us is sort of happening to our business at the same time. And the lines just get blurred. There's no office hours, there's no 9 to 5, and you kind of got to show up and be awesome all the time. So how did that event then even shape you as a person? Because
so I missed the very beginning of it. Was it the divorce?
Yeah, so you
Yeah.
still had that, right? And someone, you know, whatever you want to call it, whether you want to call it a challenge or
Yeah.
anything else, how does that, something like that kind of an event shape you as a person, and, you know, all the lessons from that kind of an event in life? Because as I say, this is such a personal business, right?
Mm. I guess I compartmentalize things, and I think that's very much, you know, a key point, because for me, I could have been broken in or felt broken in parts of my life, but I also had responsibilities. I had little children who I shared with their dad, and as in, you know, bringing them up. So I had a lot of responsibility. I had expenses. I had all of those things. So it's like, you know, maybe we all like to have a little bit of a pity party, but a prolonged pity party does not pay the bills. It does not put food on the table. And so for me, it was very much I had to act. I'm a great, you may have heard, some of you may have heard me say this before, there is nothing so motivating as not having a safety net. You know, when you jump without a safety net, you have to fly. And for me, that's been a lot of my journey. And, you know, I'm blessed that I've been surrounded by greater powers and family, and I've been able to do that. But yeah, it was very, you know, it was probably took me a long time to get over some of those personal aspects, and it took me a long time to realize that I could stand up in front of an audience. I've been doing that for many, many years. So I thought my self-confidence was intact, but what I didn't actually realize is that we have a number of self-confidence tanks. So there was areas of my life on a personal level that were very low. And so it was really, and I cannot encourage people enough to go inside and really examine and to look at those different compartments and realize that, you know, one might be overflowing, but the other might be, you know, leaking out the bottom. And so that was yeah, there was really dark days there, Paul, without a doubt. But it's, again, I think you have to have a belief in something bigger than yourself. You have to have a purpose. You have to have your raison d'etre, your reason to be. And I've always, you know, I've been grateful for my upbringing, that it was always about community. It was about serving. And, you know, pity parties weren't part of our language.
Mm. Great wisdom. I love that. You know, when you don't have a safety net, you know, you have to fly. So write that one down if you missed that, because you've got nowhere else to go. Adish, I can't wait to hear from you on this topic, because, you know, I know you well. We're good friends, and we've been through lots together, and you know, shed some tears together and had a lot of happy times too. So I know that this can be an interesting journey, this thing called life, let alone doing life in a doTERRA business. But tell us about an experience or a time when a perceived failure impacted you impacted you in a very personal way, one that was difficult to navigate or to recover from emotionally.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, for having me here. And first of all, I want to say, Leonie, I love your positivity too. I have it also as one of my top 5 strengths, but I had some dark times, and honestly, I think it was just coming out. It was something which I probably, as a personality, from a personality aspect, I dealt before with, and I put it away, but doTERRA brought it out. And doTERRA is such a learning experience about yourself. And I have a love-hate relationship with it. And it's, there was a time, and for me, it's all about relationships. You have to understand, for those who know strengths, I have strong influencing strengths, and I have strategic thinking strengths. That's my main profile, which means, like, my need is to voice what I see, I think is right, and I want to have an impact that people hear me, so I feel good about myself. Now, that in the beginning of my doTERRA times was very raw, not refined. It was very German, very male, and I got a lot of backlash. And because I can be very strong, and together with Santoshi too, she played her part. We're a strong couple together, and we came back from a background that we have our own businesses where we just were in charge. We tell people what to do, and if they don't like it, it's time to part ways in a gentle way. Now we know in our business we cannot do this anymore. We need each other, and now when in the early days when I was telling, because I understood the business and what needs to be done very clear. And when I kind of like voiced it, I did not look up people to hear my message. And what happened more often than not, that whatever I was saying, in which was meant like, hey, let's do it better together, was actually received as criticism, and it was taken personally. And what I got was an emotional response, which was mostly, I was silenced, like there was nothing coming back, or there was a subtle rejection. And that was pure poison for me, pure poison. And then you had the gossip coming around about you, and that you're too pushy and you do it all for yourself, and all that projections were coming towards me. And it hit me so strong here in Australia that I've started really to question myself. And I was really thinking, am I a bad person? And it was not an easy time. So somehow life gives you, even in your darkest hour, always something else to crawl out of that. And for me, it was at that time that I connected with some old German friends, and all my German way was perceived very well. They understood the way I was talking, plus I was already a little bit softer than I understood that maybe I slow down a little bit, don't go too fast, wait until they can hear me with my messages. And it really, like, they took my mentoring on, and they kind of like, it was just amazing. Now, what it did for me was, obviously it really felt good, but it also, there was then with this came a relaxation, and that I'm okay. And so my monkey mind, who's always criticizing me in the back, I could silence, I could kind of like calm down. And it helped me now with my Australian team and our leaders there to really look what I can do better. And I didn't need to take the rejection anymore personal. So that helped me.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Adish. The next question I'd love to ask both of you, actually. And I know that being in the business for a while and experiencing different seasons in the business, probably having all of these amazing lessons, I would love to ask if there has, and I'll ask you first, Leonie, if there has ever been a point where you've wanted to quit, and if so, like, what kept you going? What was it that drove you onwards?
Boy, I always get into trouble for this. Hear me now. I have never, ever, ever, ever wanted to quit, which again doesn't mean that I have not had my dark moments where I haven't, for whatever was going on in my life at the time, have made things challenging. But there is just this deep burning desire in me to reach out to people and to empower people. And doTERRA was the perfect vehicle that came along. And so it's almost like, I guess it's like, when you find someone you love and you decide to get married, and it's like, you just trust. And it's like, I'm in a relationship and I'm monogamous. It's like, and so for me, I've never blamed doTERRA if my business wasn't working. I'd be looking at whether I was working or whether some of my team were working. So I didn't actually see it as something that wasn't ever going to work. I'm not a fast person, as in, I'm kind of like the turtle, forward is forward no matter what the pace. So for me, it was like, okay, some people sort of have roller coasters. Well, I don't see it like that. I see it like I just go on this little scenic drive, a little bit to the left, oops, let's come back. So I have had to make adjustments. I've had to deal with things going on, but I've just seen the richness and the opportunity and the influence and the healing, as we talk about now, that this business can bring. And that if I found another way, I kind of like have this solution seeking missile button and you just press that. And it's like, there's got to be another way. Or how can I reach out to that person in a different way or whatever? So I'm sorry, I'm probably going to script here, but I've just never, ever wanted to quit. And I really think you're going to have to, I think I'll just still be going. You can almost see me in my pine box holding a bottle of frankincense or something, and hoping people at the funeral get inspired.
I love that so much. And yeah, I think, it's such a beautiful thing when you have so much belief in the company and the mission and your vision. It's like you say, you are able to just keep at it and keep on that path and rework things when you have to. Adish, I'd love to hear your answer to this as well.
It's so good that we have different answers, Leonie. I love it. I know I have positivity too, but it gets lost sometimes. And I must admit, in the very early days, somewhere around 15 or 16 months or so into it, and it was really early days, there was a time when we seriously considered quitting. And there was a time, like our relationships, our communication stalled with our frontline leaders. There was a time nobody wanted to talk to us and we had not a clue what to do. And we tried different things. We were nice. We were kind of wanted to just have a chat for coffee. And we were just silenced out. And we felt like, wow, what are we going to do with this? And it was really early days where in Australia, nobody could help us really with this. And we only had, to the US, we had only good contacts with our uplines, right? And so we contacted them. But it was at that particular time, there was no answer coming. And we again and again contacted them and sent messages and says it's urgent, we are desperate. Now, we were desperate because we were ambitious, we were passionate, we wanted to make it happening. And for us, we needed some help because we had not a clue anymore. We needed some feedback. So someone who says it's all okay, calm down, or whatever, right? We needed someone to really have a talk with them. And they didn't come back. And it went on for 6 weeks. And it was frustrating us. We have both activators, we want things happening now, right? So to wait 6 weeks, it was really, really hard. So then we decided okay, we'll do one more little thing. And so we sent a really nice message by honoring them that obviously they have some more important things in their lives to do than answering us. And that's okay. But as a consequence, we will slow down with doTERRA and we'll focus on our day-to-day business. And look, it was a blackmail, we understood, but we were also a ranking leg of them. So we had to do a little bit of leveraging our influence, right? And we've got an answer within an hour, bang. So all being nice before didn't work. The polite asking didn't work. The pure blackmail got immediately a reaction. And within 7 days, our upline came over to America and did a 7-day tour all around Australia with us. Look, we are super grateful. And we are grateful for what they have been doing and are still doing for us. But I think that was a key moment in our relationship where we stood up, says well, this is where we are at. And we weren't shy about this. So yeah, that was a short moment where we kind of were wondering, shall we stop now or slow it down? But obviously we didn't, and we went full steam ahead.
Well, Adish, I can tell you there would be thousands and thousands and thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even more than that, that are part of your downline in Australia and New Zealand that are so grateful that you persisted and that you blackmailed your upline to listening and to coming to spend some time with you. But that's what you've got to do. You know, you've got to want it bad. You've got to look for those solutions, right? So, and the reason I say all that with absolute transparency is that I'm in Adish and Santoshi's downline. So if it weren't for them sticking around, Vanessa and I wouldn't be here either. So I'm so grateful that I am, because it's changed our lives in an amazing and beautiful way. And we've got Adish and Santoshi and all the other early founders that are on this call, like Leonie, and I can see John Overbeek and Tanya Maidmont's on here, and I'm sure I'm going to miss a bunch of you, but so grateful for all of you. Leonie, next question, and I don't want just the Leonie, you know, no, I was so happy about it, didn't bother me, I was cool, everything was fine answer. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to answer maybe for one of your team members, and you can give no names, so there's no names, no pact drill, right? Maybe you can share one of those experiences if it's not your own. But the question is, have you or anyone on your team lost builders? What happened? How to make you feel? And how do you overcome that kind of a failure? Because that can be a real kind of hit if something like that happens and you've invested so much time and effort and energy, and then you feel like, oh no, and can I start again? Can I make another one? That kind of thing.
I'll absolutely answer that from my heart. But first of all, can I just say, Adish and Santoshi, you know, I for one am just so grateful for both of you, because I think I came in about a year after you, and you know, to me this is a big family and a community, and you know, I guess many of the reasons that I'm around are because of people like you, and you two were always there. You know, if I couldn't find out anything from corporate, the Dish would fill me in or help me out, or, you know, I didn't have the information available to me. And it was always lovely that we were friends, but, you know, Adish was always so giving of his time and energy, and I really appreciate that, Adish, very much. So yes, coming back to have I lost builders? Well, I haven't lost them because I know exactly where they are. But one of the things, yes, I have, you know, and I make no bones about the fact that I love to say when our team got to Blue Diamond, I'm the leader of a Blue Diamond team, but, you know, we actually don't rank as Blue Diamond anymore. And that does not bother me one bit, because I'm not defined by name, you know, letters after my name or by words. You know, I know what purpose is here on earth, and I want to just keep sharing oils with people. So if that makes the team bigger and it gives me, you know, colors and crystals, well, great. And I'm very much appreciative. So, but yes, it has happened. And I guess the first emotions, you know, if I think about a couple of them, was like, yeah, that, as you said, Paul, that, you know, and then you'd think you'd start to feel sick because I rely on this income to feed my children, or whatever the situation is. You know, you go through all those emotions. And I think for me, I take things, I am very sensitive, despite all this, you know, Pollyanna, purple, pink glasses, whatever they are. I feel deeply. And because I like to think I come from love and I really care and I listen to people, I really feel it if it's like, it feels like it's going pear-shaped. And just let me put this out there, I have no illusions of being perfect. In fact, I love the fact that I'm perfectly imperfect and on a constant path of improvement. So I mess up. But I don't do it intentionally. And so, you know, in a couple of cases where people have really taken things the wrong way. But then what I've had to do, and this is a game with a lot of personal development, I love the Stoics. I absolutely love them, you know, teaching us to regulate our emotions as opposed to being ruled by them. And so actually sort of doing a 360 and looking at things from their perspective. I think that's really critical to any times I'm faced with challenges, seeing it from somebody else's perspective, you know, and without feeling any rancor towards them or any negative types of emotions. Just like, okay, it is what it is. You know, the Stoics will say that, like, it is what it is. It's us that assign the emotion to it that gives us the pain. And so I try and look at it quite analytically. So what I have found that's led to this, and this is one of my big aha learning moments, is other people's definition of commitment is very different to my own. And so if anything, I have to be mindful of that, but also I have to be more clear in my communications and my expectations. All that aside, things change. People come into our lives for a season and a reason, and sometimes they're totally committed, but then their life changes and they have to about face and do something else. So I've never had any, I have had some sort of tight conversations where people have totally misunderstood, or their story now is very different to their story back then. So they're seeing things differently. But what I have found is I look for peace. I look for peace and how to create the best outcome for all of us. In a couple of the cases, one of the cases I actually I'm waiting now, that person is actually looking at maybe swapping someone in. But here's the thing, to me, it's people first. I always say be a person first, a doTERRA person second, you know? And so for me, I want to make sure that everyone in that team is being looked after, because they are my responsibility. I care about these people. And if the leader isn't there for whatever reason, I need to find a way. And so that's been a bit of a challenge, because that then sort of saps my energy. But there's been ways, you know, teaming people up, you know, checking in. Some people don't want to be looked after. So it's been interesting navigating, but I think if you can do it with love and with understanding and compassion and gratitude, because, you know, if they hadn't have come in and helped me in that particular leg, and they hadn't brought people in, that wouldn't have got me where I was either. So that's how I have navigated that through that.
Love it, love it. Some great pearls of wisdom there. I hope you're taking notes, guys, and writing this stuff down. Adish, your thoughts on that? I know for a fact, you know, like we all have, you've lost some people in this journey along the way. What happened? How did it make you feel? And of course, how did you overcome that perceived failure? Because I know that you have in spectacular ways.
Yeah. So look, first of all, Leonie, you're incredible the way you kind of like weave your words and explain things. And you just took completely the wind out of my sail, because what is there left for me to say, really? Like, it's like, hallelujah. I want to be asked the next question first, right?
Okay,
so
well, you are getting the next question first. So
no, I'm just joking.
And I will supplement the question for you right now.
No.
Adish.
Yeah.
Direct question, not on the script. So we're going off script. You lost some team members, had to, and I think this is just amazing that so far into your doTERRA journey, you and Satoshi, you know, didn't have a leg that was going to qualify you anymore, and you thought, well, look, where to from here? And then you guys reinvented yourselves really with Germany and what happened there. So maybe just tell us a little bit about that experience, because I know before Germany was a bit dark days, right?
Exactly. Look, we lost quite a few people, and the truth is, short term, it's always heartbreaking if someone suddenly decides to do something else. There is always the pain. Now, I must admit, like, I had to learn to deal with it in a bit more compassionate way, because I did not understand it. doTERRA is an incredible business opportunity, and it was so painful for me to see that people were just before breaking that barrier where they moved into diamond and beyond and would have made a real residual income business. And they just needed to hang on a little bit more. I could see it from my perspective, but they couldn't see it from their perspective. And the truth is, it was when it happened the first time, we were frustrated, right? We were frustrated. Then I understood that doesn't help. Then it was painful, and now that doesn't help either, right? So you all have to pull it back to yourself. What are you going to do now? And as Paul mentioned, like we turned and we got help out of nowhere. That an old friend from Germany basically contacted me and wanted to get me into his network marketing thing, which was also about essential oils. So it took a while it took 4 months of continuous talking with him regularly over Zoom. And I understood that we have the much better deal. We're already far ahead. We have the much better product. We have the much better company. And it took a while for him to understand this. But the moment he said yes, and because I understood his commitment, his work ethic, because from the past, he was a good friend. And he said, like, if we're doing it, what can you give me? And I asked him, like, how many hours do you invest? Can you invest? And he said, well, I have nothing else to do, 50 to 60 hours. Within 2 weeks, I went to Germany, and it was an amazing journey. We just did Diamond Club for 6 weeks, and he went to gold within 6 weeks. I pushed his team to go to the European Leaders Convention, and they all kind of like went on the brakes and said, like, do we really have to go? I said, like, yes, 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 yes. And we were then already Blue. I helped you finance it. And from then on, they just cruised, they just went. And so I realized, like, the relationships is the key aspect with your frontline leaders. And you have to really nourish the relationship. That's the most important thing, whether they do doTERRA or not. Like, never ever question the relationship, and allow them to move in their own pace. And we learned our lesson. We did it with our second German team. I was even much softer there. And so we got really 2 good legs. And with our Australian team, still painful, but we are reconnecting, and with no pushing, we're just accepting and loving as they are. And they have mostly what you call blessed accounts. And it's okay. I don't have any energy around this anymore, you know? So.
Thank you so much. I think it's so wonderful that we can have these really honest conversations about these things, because I think so often people think that they're the only ones experiencing this, whether it's, you know, losing a builder. But the reality is we all go through these different waves, and you come back every time. So going on to the next question, I'm going to ask you, Adish. So one of the beautiful things in this business is getting to work so closely with, you know, amazing and so many different people. But of course, quite often there are challenges that can come along with that. So have you ever had any personality clashes or issues in your team that you look back on, you know, maybe at the time you thought, oh, this is a failure, this is really hard, but it's actually made you into something different? And I feel like you've kind of answered this in part, but I'd love to hear a bit more about this, because once again, I think something that is commonly experienced in different teams.
Okay. One recipe for my success is I messed up probably the most relationships in doTERRA, right? And I learned my lessons with it, right? Because yeah, it's like I had a lot of issues, and it is, for me, it's just like being much more patient right now. That's what I learned, right? And being more accepting. And I had an incredible learning curve. And yeah, just loving people who they are. And I'm more at peace with myself. Look, we are in our business obviously also in a different situation right now, because we are 2 residual income recipients, and that helps. And so I look back is like, this was a maturing process I went in the first few years, and it was necessary. And my drive and my passion and my push was also needed to get where we are today. So I don't deny that was needed. And look, I ruffled a few feathers, and maybe they learned their lessons out of that, because whatever I ruffled, it's up to them whether they take it on or not. And but that's up their journey. I learned my lessons. I deal with it a bit differently. And yeah, I just mostly love, but sometimes hate the journey.
Adish, great answer, great answer. It reminds me of advice my father once gave me when I was a young boy. He said, son, no one can ever make you feel inferior about yourself. You have to give them permission for that.
Yes.
And he goes, and why would you? I'm like, oh. took me a while till I really understood that, more so later in life. But some of these pearls of wisdom just keep kind of coming back at you later on. You go, so grateful, so grateful. A couple of quick questions before we get into Q&A, everyone. So feel free to throw your questions up there on the board, ready for these two amazing guests that we have tonight. Leonie, what have you found as kind of the biggest challenge in your business? So, you know, it's not easy, right? I mean, you got to Blue Diamond, I want to guess and say like 10 years after you started your doTERRA business, roughly, something like that, or quite a few years into it.
That's 7,
So,
7, 8, yeah.
7, 8 years, right? So it's a journey, and you know, as you've always said, you know, you see this as you're kind of like the marathon girl, right?
Yeah.
But there's still struggles along the way. There's still challenges.
Yeah.
What I want to know is, you can refer to the challenge and share the story if you have one that you can think of, but what's the lesson that's come from it for you? What doTERRA business lesson or personal lesson has come out of this for you that you can go, it was tough, but now I have this?
I think one of my challenges is because I have this really strong belief and passion, and I'm very active. Like, you know, we don't get to where we get in the business by just thinking about it. And I guess one of my struggles and things that I find is that this is an epidemic of unproductivity. And my heart breaks for people who are doing all these tasks and then going, I'm working so hard, but they're not actually the activities that are bringing them income. So, you know, then there's like the mechanization of human connection, you know, whereas to me, people often have this thing about, okay, they see human connection as the cog in the business wheel, instead of I see human connection as the grease that keeps the cogs moving. So I can get really frustrated about things. And, you know, as much as I follow the Stoics and I try and regulate my emotions, there are days when it ain't working. So it's like, for me, I'm having to learn that some people's journey is just their journey, because I feel so deeply. I want to see them do better, and I want to see them succeed. It's a bit like you said, Adish, they get so close and then they're self-sabotaging. So I guess for me, that's not a healthy energy for me. So I'm trying to really work with people where they're at. I'm trying to role model. I'm like you, Adish. I just think relationships are everything. And we're building a beautiful community here in our local area where, you know, people are coming, they're changing their job hours just to turn up on Tuesday for our class because they love each other and they want to be there and hang out. So I guess for me, I'm trying to work with the willing. This is what my lesson is. Work with the willing. Set more boundaries around my energy exchange, and make discernment my friend. So rather than, I don't want to get grumpy or bitter and twisted about things that don't happen or people that don't do what they do. I just want to be a little bit more discerning about who I bring into my life and where I put my energy, if that makes sense. So that's probably, I could go on, but I know we're short of time, so.
Oh, I feel like there's so many quotes being written down tonight. Once again, we'll have to make t-shirts for every episode. Okay, so this is the last question that I'm going to ask. And once again, it's for both of you. I'll start with Adish, but our chat show here is called Becoming Influential. And I would love to ask, what does influence mean for you?
Okay, so becoming influential means for me, if I can help someone finding their own answers and their own motivation to act on their answers, then I have become influential and I've done my work.
Absolutely love that. Thank you so much. And Leonie?
Okay, so for me, if I can empower people to be the best they can be, if I can inspire them to go within and do the work within so they don't have to go without what they desire in life, if I can encourage them to find their joy, find what brings them joy and overlay that with doTERRA, the doTERRA activities that bring them joy, and get out there and share. And I want to leave you with a beautiful quote from Seneca. who said there is no easy way from the earth to the stars. But I want to add to that. It is a simple process. And if you will get out of your comfort zone, if you will take just the first step and then the next step after that, the view along the way is breathtaking. And more so when you get to where you want to go, you will have abundance that will take your breath away. That, if I can achieve that, I have become a person of influence.
That just could be the best answer to that question I had, I think. Love it, Leonie. Well, Adish, Leonie, thank you both so much for being with us today and sharing generously for the benefit of our community. And to all of you listening out there, thanks so much for tuning in to Becoming Influential, the chat show for modern marketers. Join us on our next episode where we're going to be talking creating a successful side hustle with doTERRA. We have a couple of exciting special guests that are going to be coming along for that in the lead up to that episode, which is going to be on Wednesday, the 4th of May. So same Zoom link, but please feel free to share the registration link with friends and family and community that you have and bring them along. And we'll be running that each month. So first Wednesday of every month. Looking forward to connecting with you all again then. All right, that's the end of the recorded part. Now we get to the fun part, Q&A. So now we can go really, really off script. So if you've got your questions ready, put them into the chat there. I think there's already a few at the top there. Courtney, I don't know if you've scrolled back and seen a few ready where the first question started after I asked for them, but I want to find them.
Can read the first one if you like.
Yeah, go.
So this one's for you, Adish. What would you and Santoshi have done with no German or other source of connections when things went a bit wobbly? I added the wobble bit.
Oh, that's a very difficult question. I think we wouldn't have given up, and we were willing to kind of like stuck it out because obviously it would have been, you know, especially for me, because at that time I really felt not good about myself and I didn't know what to do. I probably would have stepped a little bit back because I was pretty much in the front of the business, and I would have pushed Santoshi a little bit more to be the front woman, and so me more on the background. But I wouldn't have given up because we at that time we obviously loved the products and we loved the business opportunity. We loved the owners, and as much as I had dark days, I have positivity. I cannot hang in there too long. I will not make hell my home too long. I can promise you that.
Nice, nice. Next question, either of you can answer, from Adi. What do you do when the questions from your team become way too specific and sensitive? Examples of things like pictures of eczema and asking for remedies, questions about earaches of very young babies, questions about what works with breastfeeding, etc. What do you do with all that?
I'm happy to answer that.
Go, Leonie.
I please don't take this the wrong way, but I always say I actually don't want sick people to come to me. I want people who want to be well to come to me. So part of that, when someone comes to me with something like that, I want to empower them to find their own answers. So I'm happy to, again, I don't have an issue with saying that's not my sphere, but here are some resources, or, you know, have you checked here, or et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, depending what it is, if I have got some material, I will give it to them, but I don't become Dr. Leonie.
Cool. I know the source of this question, and the frustration is that this person's been directing them back to, you know, kind of seek their own learning and seek their own answers. But I guess many of us would have experienced this. We've got some lazy people in our communities and teams and customers who don't want to go and do their own learning, and they still just keep coming. What do you do if that happens, Leonie?
I guess I'd just do the same thing. I'd say, have you checked those resources I gave you last time? And I think it's, I find sometimes people don't mean to, and this is a lesson for me, that I think sometimes I'm so easygoing, I haven't always put value in myself. And I probably did go down that path at one stage. This is in another career. I used to take everyone's questions at the meeting and write them down, and then I would go home and sit up till 2 o'clock and I'd find all the information and I would send it to them. And then half the time they never responded. So then I changed tack. So when they asked me at the meeting, I'd say, email me and I'll look into that for you. Well, 99% didn't email me. Now, here's a funny story. When one of my leaders to leaders, she told me this story later. She said, when you used to do that, I thought you were being lazy. So I decided when I was a leader, I was going to get them the answers. And after about 6 months, she knew why I did what I did. I wanted to empower people and enable them.
For sure. Got the next question in there. I think there's one for Adish. Have you got that one there?
Oh, yeah. Just scrolling up again. So,
yep.
What do you find best about the business and coming from a different culture and background? In the best part.
Where to start? It is the best business ever, right? And look, for so many reasons. So you have the absolute best product. You have the best company, the owners, and you can build up your business in your own time. Like, look, we took it on part-time, but then we pushed hard very early onwards. And man, you get rewarded on so many levels. Now, financially, incredible. We would have never, ever made that much money in our lives, full stop, right? This is crazy. This is really beyond crazy. Now you have to understand that was hard work, and like we're in it since nearly 12 years, right? So that is that part. But then we love the community. We immediately sense there is a community of sharing, of love. It's more than just oils. Oils are just an excuse to share love and support each other. And we made so many friends all over the world. This is unreal. Like, where else can you do this? Like, in my other hobby circles, I meet people and they have their own little business and they're just like in their day-to-day rhythm and they complain and looking forward to retirement. I'm not looking forward to retirement. I'm beyond retirement age. I want to continue, right? So I don't know what else I can say, but I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea why I love the business.
Love it, love it. When you get that passion and enthusiasm kind of overflowing, it's awesome. Leonie, someone here has made a really good observation. This is a question from Josh. He says, Leonie, I find you a very positive person. What are your tips to stay positive and calm? Oils and other activities, please.
Joy, I've been blessed that I have been around direct selling and personal development for, I don't even want to say how long, but for many, many years. And I think that, it's all about understanding ourselves, because the more we understand ourselves, the more we can understand others, and we have more skills to be able to work with others and connect. And I'm passionate about two things: people and essential oils, and the rest of my passions come underneath that. And so for me, again, the reason I can stay positive is I have a vision. I know who I am, work in progress. I know who I am. I know where I'm going. And so anything that kind of, that little deviation along the way, again, I've got that solution seeking missile, that button that just happens, because I know that if I want to get there, I have to activate that. So the who I am, the why, purpose, passion, vision, all those things. But yes, of course, oils. And then of course, I'm loving studying the Stoics at the moment, because, they are about, regulating your emotions and not being, because it's so easy to go into that reactive state rather than a responsive state. So when we can just sort of like hover above and, even just observe, that's interesting. And then, I do a lot of brainstorming and, getting the emotions out and then looking at them practically. And yes, the oils come in big time. And sometimes it's a good idea. I draw a circle on the page with legs out, and it might be like, I'll look at the issue and then I'll look at the emotions of what's happening outside. And I can then ask myself, how much of this is within my control? And if it's not within my control, I have to then come back to what is in my circle of influence. And that's me and my responses. So yeah, but oil up, I'm not really sure where I would be without my oils. And guys, I don't want to paint the picture that my life is not challenging at times. But I do want to say that when you are so connected with your why and your passion, and you have these beautiful oils, and to me it's so much bigger than me, I just want to get them out in the world, that it really does help to lift you out of that darkness or that challenge, and bring you into that state of calm that you can look. And two last things that help me immensely are compassion and gratitude. So when anything does rock the boat, or someone rocks me, I go into compassion thinking, I wonder what's going on in their life. And then I go into gratitude. I'm so grateful that I have been given the beautiful family upbringing and skills and the doTERRA family to support me to be able to respond to this better.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you, Leonie. Great questions to all of you. Oh, Courtney, you've got to pick someone who's on camera who we've got to give away a little prize to, right? So I'll let you randomly select someone that's on camera that we can, now that we're going to try and flood on, but too late.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to do it with my eyes closed. I'm going to do like a swirly. What if it lands on me? Oh, where's my mouse? Oh, we got Karen Blair.